I sat down with GOP presidential candidate and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott on two of the big stories that are unfolding this hour. President Biden meeting with Zelensky on aid to Ukraine. What does Senator Scott think about that at this point? And the illegal border crossings crisis surging. How much more money should Americans give to this war effort? And what's the goal? How do we know when we're done?
Yeah, the failure of this president is he has not done a good job of helping Americans understand what is America's national vital interest in Ukraine. It is in degrading the Russian military. We have been very effective of doing so with our resources and the very high price of Ukrainian blood. Keeping American troops off the ground should be job number one. But people in our country are very frustrated with this administration not closing our southern border. The number one actual national security risk we have is an open, unsafe, insecure southern border that's led to the deaths of 70,000 Americans because of fentanyl coming across our southern border. The question we're asking ourselves, can this president not walk and chew gum at the same time? Can we not deal with the foreign relations challenges that we have and close our southern border? Instead, he's doing exactly the opposite, though. He's actually selling off the equipment.
So two things. To Ukraine for just a moment. What is your sort of red line in terms of how much more resources we should give, right? There's on the table, a couple dozen more $1 billion are on the table to potentially send to Ukraine. You say the goal is to degrade the Russian military. That seems like a difficult thing to ascertain when that has actually happened.
Well, one of the things we should ask ourselves is what is the price if Putin strikes NATO territory? That price, according to Article 5, are our troops on the ground.
Right.
When we degrade the Russian military, it reduces threats to NATO territory that is contiguous with Ukraine. By doing that, we actually empower our nation and reduce the likelihood of using our troops. I think putting a price tag on that, I don't know what the price is for an American soldier. I can tell you keeping them at home, safe and out of harm's way.
So the former President Trump said that he would put U.S. troops on the border when he looks at what's happening down there. Would you do that?
Definitely. In America, certainly.
Yeah. And how soon? What would that look like?
Yeah, so
if President Scott were looking at what's going on in the border and, President Biden was out and you were in,
yes.
What do you do on day one on that?
Day one is you eliminate the Inflation Reduction Act, get rid of the 87,000 IRS agents that he was going to hire, take that $40 billion. I have legislation that would do so. I would sign that legislation and put that $40 billion in the hands of our Border Patrol agents. We would double the number of agents that we have on the border and provide more resources, more incentives for longer hours. And in addition to that, I would certainly welcome more of our military there on the border.
The White House keeps looking at at Congress, and the House says we've passed a Border Security Act. So obviously you don't have a majority in the Senate, but isn't there a growing hunger among, moderates and some Democrats as well? Why can't the Senate get something passed on the border?
Well, I'd love to see Chuck Schumer put something on the border on the desk of us to sign or to vote on. That has not happened. So what we see is a lot of noise from, frankly, here in New York, where you see the governor, the mayor fighting with the president for more resources because they're finally experiencing what Texas and Arizona have been experiencing for years. Seeing the devastation in Texas today, thousands of illegal immigrants coming to the border, is something that sanctuary cities like New York, San Francisco, and other places haven't experienced. Now that they're having fights within their own parties.
A wake-up call.
It should happen every day, though. We should never surrender our southern border, and we should never apologize for keeping it strong.
So you came after President Trump a bit on his abortion stance recently. You've come after Vivek Ramaswamy on Israel. Your campaign has always been based in being very optimistic and positive. Yes. Are you starting to get tougher on the opposition who you're running against? And everybody has seen the numbers. Trump is ahead by a mile. And is that happening too late?
I don't think so. The race A is still, we're in the infancy of the race. But more importantly, what the American people and Republican primaries want to know is, where are we different? I'm an optimistic, positive messenger anchored in conservatism. And I thank God Almighty that I've had the privilege of living the American dream. The question is, where are we different? One of the issues that's manifested very quickly is that the former president, Vivek, Nikki, and Ron have taken a very similar position, that they would not stop states like California, New York, or Illinois from having abortions on demand, even up until the day of birth. I do not believe that our nation should be the nation that doesn't stop these states from taking very immoral, unethical positions. A 15-week limit on the national level allows for any state to have a more conservative law, but stops radical states from taking a life the day before it's born.
Before I let you go, you look at those polls, and as I said, the former president is well ahead in them. What would you say right now to a Trump supporter who says, no, I want former President Trump back?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would say if you enjoyed the time that we had in the majority, if you celebrate the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, number one I'd say is I wrote the legislation, one of the three primary authors. He signed it. We can do that again. Tax Cuts and Jobs Act reduced taxes for every single demographic, and it created the most inclusive economy, 7 million jobs as a result. The Opportunity Zone legislation that he signed, I authored it. We celebrated that together. What happened? $75 billion impacted the poorest communities in America without using a single federal dollar, all private sector. If you liked promoting and encouraging more investment in education, I helped lead the way during that majority. The good news is if you enjoyed the policies, but you want a candidate with the power of persuasion where independents, minorities, and millennials want to be part of the new revival in America where we believe in each other again, I'm your guy. Go to votetimscott.com.
Senator Scott, who I would point out is wearing a jacket and tie. What do you think about Fetterman wearing short sleeves up there presiding over the Senate?
Well, not only do they want to reduce the standards in the Senate for Fetterman and for the Democrats, they want to eliminate the standards in education. They want to get rid of the SAT. They want to get rid of honor classes. Why? Because they believe in mediocrity as the future of our nation. I believe in greatness as the future of our
Senator
nation.
Scott, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Yes,
good to see you, and we look forward to
Thank
seeing you up there on stage on Wednesday with everybody else who's running in our great Fox News business team, and Ilya Calderon and Stuart Varney and Dana Perino. It's going to be great. So we'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Straight ahead this hour, Clay Travis joins us, and former